Good morning. Justin Trudeau admits he doesn't know how many more photos or videos of him in blackface may exist. That's part of the bigger question that now hangs over him after his most bruising day on the campaign to date. The other party leaders are condemning Trudeau, but so far they're not calling for him to step down as Liberal leader. They say it will be up to Canadians to decide his fate come October. This morning, Trudeau will take another step back to facing voters. Here is his first. It was last night at a Saskatoon town hall.
You were questioned about how many times you have appeared in blackface or brownface. I'll make it easy. Is it possible to round to the nearest 5?
Okay. I'm not going to make light of the situation. I don't think it's something that we should be making light of. I think far too many people in this country face discrimination and intolerance on a daily basis. And what I did was inexcusable and wrong and hurt a lot of people who considered me to be an ally. And that is wrong. And I am deeply, deeply sorry. There is no way to sugarcoat it. It was something that I did wrong. And I take responsibility for it.
How many times?
Sir, as we move forward as a country, as I move forward and continue to try and continue to fight against intolerance and racism with my actions, I also take responsibility for the fact that I lacked respect towards people who already faced tremendous discrimination, and that is something that I apologize for. Thank you.
As you can see in those images, the crowd there in Saskatoon is mostly friendly at that Liberal event. That is one of what ended up being only 2 questions to him about wearing blackface, and that other person urged him not to apologize. His response is coming just hours after he held a news conference to apologize again for the photos from what you see here, a photo of him at a high school talent show, and from this in 2001 at a gala when he was a teacher at a private school in Vancouver. And there was a video as well that emerged, all of which he apologized for yesterday. Today, though, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is in Toronto. That means the busloads of reporter covering him are also in Toronto, including our David Cochran. So thanks for coming in so early.
No worries, thanks.
We're going to leave aside that story for a second. I'm definitely not going to go too far away from it. But today, 10:30, we're hearing there's a policy announcement from Trudeau. Any idea what that involves?
Yeah, today the Liberal leader is going to talk about guns. This is something he's been getting asked about on the campaign trail really since the Mississauga shootings of a week ago, of like, when are you going to take some action on gun control, in this election campaign? And what we're hearing is that it's going to be a twofold policy announcement. One is further prohibitions on assault rifles, the possibility of an outright ban, and the second is dealing with the whole issue of a handgun ban. This is something the Liberals have been reluctant to do outright nationally because they believe that the data doesn't show that it can be super effective, but they do believe that if municipalities want this power to do this, that's something they'll look to explore.
Which Montreal and Toronto both do.
Absolutely. So what is going to be a twofold approach today. It's going to be tougher restrictions, maybe an outright ban on assault rifles, and then some sort of a legislative framework to allow municipalities to ban handguns if that's something they want. And where they're doing this, Heather, is also important today. They're going to the Toronto Danforth riding, where Trudeau's going to do some door knocking or campaigning with Julie DeBruisen, but also her and Nate Erskine-Smith. They're going to go near the site of the Danforth shooting from a couple of years ago. Reese Fallon, a young woman, a nursing student, was killed in that. She had volunteered and worked with Nate Erskine-Smith in past elections. So it's an acutely important issue for him at an acutely important location, being so close to one of the victims of that shooting. And they're going to use that as the backdrop. And I think we have a sense of the rhetoric that we're going to hear from Trudeau today, because when we were in Kitchener with him 3 or 4 days ago. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. He did an interview with a local Kitchener radio station and flat out said in that Andrew Scheer is in the pocket of the gun lobby. So they're looking to draw a stark contrast on the issue of gun control between him and the Conservative leader, and hopefully get back to talking about policy and not about blackface from 20 years ago.
Which we're going to do in just a second. This is really interesting. I mean, Toronto's mayor has been really looking for something from the government. 3 shootings in the area overnight. The timing is really most opportune on this. And as you say, an opportunity to take back control of the agenda and the narrative, as we say, after what has been really an exceptional 48 hours. As you have covered this, where are we today? What are you hearing from within the war room, and what the sense is of the Canadian reaction to this?
Yeah, so two things. Like, we were on the plane the other night when he had that surreal news conference where he had to admit to it and then admit there were more incidents. They felt that that went well, but he wasn't quite contrite enough and didn't quite acknowledge that the hurt that his past actions could have caused to racialize Canadians. So the change of plans in Winnipeg yesterday morning, where they canceled the policy announcement throughout the schedule, and he had this large, quite remarkable news conference in a public park with hundreds of people around it, not screened, not vetted, not handpicked by the Liberals, just people on their lunch break eating in that area. And Justin Trudeau shows up and starts taking questions about blackface. They felt he was much more contrite and direct and empathetic in that than he had been, and felt that that was important. For example, on the original news conference, he talked about an affection for costumes. Well, you know, skin color is not a costume.
Right.
And a lot of people found that quite offensive, you know, so that was the challenge there. So we've been in Winnipeg and Saskatoon since this happened, and now we're in Toronto. And when he's meeting with people and walking through the crowds, and he did a lot of this in Winnipeg and he had that town hall in Saskatoon, he's not getting a lot of aggression on it, and there's not a lot of anger yet. People are still running up to him to take selfies. The people of color we've seen him speak with have said to him, look, it's okay. You know, it's a lot of the anger seems to be coming from white people, quite frankly, is what we're finding, driven by people like you and me in the media and in social media. But like, look, it's a small sample size and it's a very short period of time. He hasn't yet gone into places like the 905s or the Lower Mainland. We don't yet know what kind of blowback they're getting there. But the challenge for Trudeau on this, Heather, is he has admitted that this was a racist act. If you look at his record, if you look at his cabinet, you look at the policies, the people around him, I think it's very difficult to make an argument that he is a racist. You know, he did something really stupid in the past, and he's admitted that. Where he's vulnerable on this is it makes him look unserious, a little bit like the India trip, putting on, you know, the costumes and not being seen to take things too seriously. And also is a bit of a hypocrite. I mean, the Conservatives are running the not as advertised ad campaign. And the Liberals under Trudeau, they like to get on their high horse and ride to the moral high ground a lot and kind of lecture people on social values. The campaign started with that, with their social media drops. And now he's caught in one of these things. So it goes to the how genuine is he? How serious is he? And is he who he says he is, or is it all just an elaborate act? That's what his political critics are certainly saying about this. The racist brand, tougher for that to stick. But, you know, when we asked him yesterday, are there more of this? He could not give us a definitive answer because he says he simply can't remember. That's a troubling sign for the Liberals.
And they must be bracing for that
They are.
in the campaign, that there could be more of these to surface. And if it becomes a pattern, I mean, we've seen some Liberals say this is maybe changing their view on all of it. It's really been fascinating, though, to get, even from our viewers' perspectives as well, exactly what you said reflected. It's more, it gets to the authenticity question, the transparency question, the who are you? You're trying to portray yourself as one thing and perhaps something else. And these are things that we'll see whether there is any lasting effect.
Yeah, and the challenge we have as the campaign reporters is, look, we wake up in a different city every morning, we race to an event, we shout some questions at them, we race to a hotel, we file our stories, we get on a bus, we get on a plane, switch. So you're not really getting time to interact, right? So, you know, I'm not going to be able to accurately tell you this is the mood of the country because we are, you know, dealing with the same 50 people every day and it's a different backdrop. So you don't really get that sense. People who aren't actually traveling with the Liberal leader will have a much better sense of how the country's reacting.
Well, we are getting that certainly by our viewer feedback. You'll see that, I think, when he goes door knocking. You'll hear from whoever he happens to land on the doorstep of in that Toronto riding. David, thanks for coming in and for all the coverage through these first now 10 days. And we'll look forward to the rest. David Cochrane back to cover the Liberal campaign.